Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of The Real Podcasters, the show where we talk all things movies, TV shows, video games and a whole bunch of other things in no particular order. My name's Regan, I'm in slightly better health this week compared to last week, and I'm now joined by my co-host of now default better health, it's Dan.
Hi everyone, we are here with episode 23. On today's topic is Regan.
We are returning to the Whoniverse with Doctor Who Series 5. This is the one I've been dying to talk about.
All 13 episodes plus a special as well. We're obviously going to talk about the special because it's part of the series, isn't it?
Oh yes, of course.
It's the same with Series 6, which we'll get to in a matter of weeks.
2 weeks-ish. Already by default, this episode is going to be longer than the rest, so you'll probably be able to tell how biased I am towards Series 5. As ever, we've also got our watch list for the week, which now includes video games, because I'm starting to play video games again, and you've moved over to the PC Master Race, you bastard.
You bastard.
You bastard. And as ever, there's some noteworthy news to check out. Timecodes are in the description if you do want to jump around a bit. We will kick things off. This is now 2 weeks in a row. We've got another passing to discuss, paying our respects to Monty Norman, who passed away on the 11th of July, aged 94. And for those who don't know who he is, he's the one who composed the original rendition of the James Bond theme for 1962's Dr. No. And, well, it's been virtually unchanged for nearly 60 years, so it kind of goes to show how iconic of a theme it is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, considering... as you say, it started with Dr. No and then went all the way up to the Craig era, so that's 60-odd years worth.
Yeah, well, it's 60 years this year, which is...
Yeah, mad.
Which I kind of forgot about, even though we spoke about Bond a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, even so, there are some films in the Bond universe, we'll say, not just the Craig era, which I think you're most familiar with, because you haven't watched... I don't think you've watched any of the, old ones. At all?
I watched.
Have you?
Yeah, Doctor No, I've seen.
Right. So it's just that one.
I wasn't big on.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, literally just that one.
The theme is always still there throughout all of these ones with Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, and Pierce Brosnan. So it's the theme's
definitely
still there, and I think it just goes to show how iconic it is if it can just be used over and over and over again for so many years. So yeah, it's
actually quite interesting.
Yeah,
it's actually quite interesting because he famously won 2 libel actions against John Barry, who actually replaced Norman. I think it was in the 60s, because for some reason the studio was kind of dissatisfied with his work on the films. Barry had then claimed that he'd created the original theme, but Norman won. And he went on to earn around £485,000 in royalties between 1976 and 1999. So
yeah,
I would say it's definitely worth it. Rest in peace, Monty Norman. Absolute classic theme tune, which hopefully will never get changed because it doesn't need to, quite frankly.
No, I mean, if they changed it, it's an insult, really.
Yeah, because what else are you going to change it to? There's literally nothing else. Although I do find it funny how in Doctor No, most of the music is just the main theme. Even it's just playing while he's introduced playing cards, and I'm just it doesn't work now in just random scenes.
You know what it is when you look back on it and you watch Doctor No compared to the other ones. That theme is used an awful lot.
Oh yeah,
it's even introducing to characters, all you hear is a it's the theme again.
Yeah, it's still an absolutely cracking theme. It's just used way too much in that original film. But yes, moving on. I could have easily spoken about the upcoming RoboCop game that's coming out. I've seen RoboCop. I think it's alright. I'm more interested in the other one, which is funny because there's even less information on it. We're getting a open world survival Terminator game at some point in the future.
How ironic.
So it's from the French video game company Nacon. They announced they're working on an open world survival game set in the Terminator universe, Players will fight to survive in a post-apocalyptic open world where the last vestiges of humanity are hounded by terrifying machines. That's basically just the synopsis of Terminator, so, you know. Now, when I say there's no information, there is literally no gameplay, there's no release date, there isn't even a title.
So it's just an announcement, more or less.
It's literally titled Untitled Terminator Project. Which, I mean, you can't really use it, but it would be funny if you did. If you just released it like, oh shit, I completely forgot to title it. Okay.
They put all this work in and just forget about the title.
Yeah. So there was Terminator Resistance that I'm sure came out last year, which, you know, I never played. That's like a first-person Terminator game set in not the far future, but in the future war. Apparently is visually very, very faithful, but is full of bugs and story issues and glitches and crap like that. So unless it goes right down in price, I'm probably never going to pick it up. I think it's called Terminator Resistance. I'm pretty certain it is. But as I say, I never played it. But honestly, the concept of like, it sounds like maybe like a Left 4 Dead, but instead of like with alien monsters.
Instead of zombies, it's Terminators.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, I'm all for that. That would be quite fun, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, sounds interesting enough.
Yeah. Plus, we kind of do like a decent Terminator game at this point, but then I'd say the same for the films. Like, we'd do like a decent Terminator film, but how we? I mean, the last decent one was 2009.
Because we really haven't had a good one since Terminator 2.
Salvation is actually all right. I don't mind that.
Yes, it is. It's all right. It's all right.
As opposed
Thin
to
line,
Jenna Shit.
but it's all right.
Jenna Shit and
or Dark
whatever
Turd.
the other one is. I was going to say, I can't even remember what it's called, and I saw the damn thing in cinemas. It's the only
Dark
Terminator film I've
Fate
ever seen in
something,
cinemas, and I feel
Dark
really bad
Fate?
for that.
It's Genesis Dark Fate. I want to say Dark Fate.
That's alright, we've spoken about Terminator. Do. Oh no, that's actually the theme tune to EastEnders, not Terminator.
Do. Terminators and EastEnders. That would be a very interesting crossover. Half the trouble would just be avoided. Yeah. All these problematic characters would just be erased. There you go.
Yeah, all of a sudden that would actually be so much better. All of a sudden. Then again, I don't watch soaps because they're shit anyway. But
yeah, I don't care about soaps.
Series. What is the T800 gonna do at work this week? Find out. Oh no, he's having child maintenance problems. Oh dear.
Instead of get out of my pub, it's just Arnold Schwarzenegger standing behind the bar when there's a rowdy customer and just pulls out the shotgun and murders him. Sorted.
Get out of my pub. I will not ask again.
Get out of my pub.
There we go. I've solved it.
Now just to pitch it.
Yeah, I will happily pitch it. I'm not going to pitch it. You can get away with shite. I'm not doing that. I've got better things to do with my life, such as drink this glass of pristine water. Right. So last week we spoke about Thor: Love and Thunder. It was very good. The episode, film was. Once again, Dan liked it more than me. Or maybe it's been a week and you now
funny enough, right? I was
it.
thinking about it when we were talking about it, and it's went down slightly in terms of ratings, slightly.
I can confirm it is now definitely at the bottom of the MCU rank and behind Captain Marvel, Eternals, and Avengers: Age of Ultron. That says a lot.
Yeah,
quite a lot.
Woof.
But one of the things I didn't really talk about in the episode was actually the behind-the-scenes stuff that had been getting revealed over the few weeks before its release. I mean, I'd even said that my anticipation had dropped because of everything I'd seen. Where in interviews people were being overwhelmingly candid about things that had been cut. Christian Bale spoke a lot about things that had been cut for gore. We won't go into spoilers just because, granted it's been a week, so we're not doing spoilers for Thor in this one. If you're worried, that's fine. I'm just going to touch on the things that we do know that have actually been cut. So there was Lena Headey from Game of Thrones. She famously got sued a couple of weeks ago because she was supposed to be in the film, but wasn't.
Yeah.
And then got sued, which I don't know if it was because she wasn't in it or something. I don't know. Jeff Goldblum was supposed to reprise his role of the
Return
Grandmaster.
as the Grandmaster. Yep.
Peter Dinklage as Eitri from Infinity War. He was supposed to be in it. There was also extended stuff with actor Simon Russell Beale as one of the gods in what I've now affectionately called the God Cave, because I don't know what it's called. He's still really high in the credits, but has like 2 lines of dialogue. He plays Dionysus, one of the gods in there. And there was more footage of Gore killing all the gods, which is then kept to just quick flash images of stuff like that. So as it turns out, it sounds very similar to what happened with Justice League back in 2017. So according to reports from comicbook.com, Taika Waititi having a blank check on this film is absolutely not the case. He did get more leeway than he got with Ragnarok, but there was a mandate to bring this film under 2 hours. This comes in literally 1 hour and 59 minutes. And as we've heard, they've cut a lot of stuff from the movie. They've also been really candid about really poor visual effects as well. Like there was, I don't know if you watch any of the videos on YouTube from Vanity Fair where some of the directors do like the anatomy of a scene where they pick a scene and they're just...
Oh, yes, yes.
So they talk about the scene with Thor, Korg, Jane Foster and Valkyrie in New Asgard, and they're just talking in one of the buildings. And Tessa Thompson just flat out says that Korg looks complete rubbish. He doesn't look real at all. And even Taika Waititi's like picking it apart and everything as well. And people started kicking off because it was like, especially when there's been more recently people talk about how the visual effects artists on these big movies, they are like down to the wire. Like they're overworked so much. And then you've got the director just going out and just lambasting it just as it is, but also being candid about the stuff that got cut. Like he said, this if they've been removed, it's because they weren't very good. And apparently has no interest in director cuts or anything. So
yeah, I think he said that like everything that was cut was the equivalent of like a 4-hour film.
Mm-hmm. Which I think a lot of people picked on as like, is he really taking the mick out of the Snyder Cut? I'm like, no, he's not taking the mick out of the Snyder Cut. It isn't the biggest film on the planet. It's not the only film on the planet. Can we stop talking about it? If you want to hear our thoughts, we talked about it a couple of months ago for a while.
A while?
Yeah, a while. There is also a deleted scene with Jane first interacting with Mjolnir, where there was like set footage of it from last year.
Ah, yes.
And you see her just like floating in the air and just sort of like... just like flailing about.
Yeah,
like
I saw
a fish.
the behind the scenes image of that, and I thought, that wasn't in the film. Shame.
Yeah, because it does literally. She's just like looking at it. It starts to like float a little bit, and then just immediately cuts away. No spoilers, but we all know what the hell happens in that instance. I mean, how?
Yeah.
I find it quite fascinating that if they're still doing mandates like this. Do
you know what it is, right? Upon reflecting on it, it is a very choppy film, and you can pretty much tell that stuff is being cut out.
Oh yeah, for
pretty
sure.
drastically. Like
But I
that
think
bit
as
with
well-
Jane Foster, like she looks at the hammer, and then the next bit she's just Mighty Thor. It's like, well,
Yeah.
no dramatic like transformation or anything. You're just Mighty Thor now.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And even Gore, as good as he is in the film, like even I said, he's one of the bright spots. And he doesn't have a lot to do in the film. Like it does seem like there was a lot cut
No,
on his side as well.
He just sort of rocks up when the story needs him to.
Yeah.
Like, Gore the God Butcher deserved more. Like, there's a reason for that scary name, and it was hardly a butcher. I mean, like,
He literally, we see him kill a certain amount of gods in the film, and it's like you're not exactly living up to the name. So as you can probably tell, it's fairly low. But again, I mean, it goes back to my worries about this entire phase, where it's like there isn't really a clear direction quite frankly. And considering the Marvel are now going back to Phase 2 style, where they're just like, oh, we are going to have this, we're going to have this has to lead into that, blah, blah, blah. You need to have it less than 2 hours, you need to have this and that. I'm just like, just let them make the goddamn film, quite frankly. Even if my biggest issues with even Ragnarok was a lot of the stuff that was just done on the fly. Apparently there was a lot more done with that in this one. And you can really tell.
Yeah, you can really tell.
I really
it's
don't
pretty
want to
obvious
trash
at
Thor
times,
again.
very obvious at times.
Definitely. So I thought that was quite interesting. We now have another game to talk about. Oh, another one.
Is this the new Alien game that was announced?
We're getting another Alien game. Even though literally 2 or 3 episodes ago we were talking about another one that had been announced. This one, however, I'm more interested in, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So I got this from PC Gamer. I'm not a PC gamer. Luckily, it's coming to consoles as well.
Ironic.
So it doesn't actually have a title yet. It's just being referred to as Aliens. This new single-player game, yes, will be developed by Servios, which has a history developing VR games, namely The Walking Dead Onslaught and Sprint Vector, none of which I know at all. According to Servios, the Unreal Engine 5 affair will be an intense single-player action horror game set in the iconic Alien universe, and will be set between Alien and Aliens, where a battle-hardened veteran has a vendetta against the Xenomorphs. You don't need to give someone a vendetta against the Xenomorphs. Like, how many people are you going to find who's like, I actually really like the Xenomorphs, they're lovely. I want one as a pet.
Just watch them release a game like Alien Xenomorph Simulator.
The Sims. Alien Edition.
You've just got to like pick up the eggs and put them into like a hotter place from the hatch or something.
Or you can place the egg on the road and watch it get hit by a car. Because apparently you can do that in The Sims, which I'm sorry, if that's a thing you can do, these games should be banned immediately.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, look, I tried to play The Sims like years ago, and I think as soon as it got to like...
No, it's never a game franchise
I've
gotten into. I've watched other people play it. I have no interest at all. It's not my cup of tea, put it that way.
No,
not my cup of tea at all.
Um,
Despite the morbid things you can do.
Oh, yeah. But yes, I'm certainly a lot more interested in this because it does sound like we're getting some sort of successor to Alien Isolation, which is sorely needed at this point.
Yeah.
I'm curbing my expectations only because I was still quite interested in the previous one, Aliens Fireteam Elite, which we tried for a day, and we couldn't.
Yeah, but because of, well...
the internet
issues, I think we got halfway through a mission and then we're just like, yeah, this is just not working out in the slightest.
No, not really. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a release date on this one yet. It's probably earliest is probably next year, which even then that's probably a bit of a rush.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that I thought was promising, to say the least. And now finally, we've got some news on Scream 6. Already one of the most anticipated releases of all time. Not really, it's just really anticipated for us because we really liked the last one.
Yep.
So we've got news that Samara Weaving and Tonya Revolori have been cast in the film. Weaving was in the director's previous film, Ready or Not. And she also popped up in Bill and Ted Face the Music, which is not very good, as it turns out. And Tony Revolori played Flash Thompson in the new batch of Spider-Man films. So, yay, is that.
Will we see him get butchered by Ghostface? Only time will tell.
God, I hope he's killed in like the opening scene by someone dressed as Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man gets killed by Ghostface. Oh my God, I've just set up the opening to Scream.
Director's going to be listening, just taking notes now.
Yeah. But we do have a title. And I really hope it is actually this because it sounds hilarious. I don't know if you've actually seen this bit yet.
No, I haven't. This is news to me.
How is it that I've learned Scream news before you?
I know. This is blasphemy in some ways. So what is it called?
I was the ill one this week, and yeah, I was the one that got to it first.
Yeah. What's the name?
Scream! because it has a couple of exclamation marks on the end, so I'm just screaming it.
So that's why you said scream!
Scream!
Right,
but it's
we
weird
went from
because
Scream 2, 3, 4, Scream, or 5 Cream.
5 Cream. To Scream!
Yes, 5 Cream. To Scream!
I mean, it's weird because the exclamation marks look like they could be Roman numerals for like Scream 2. I'm like, don't you dare. But then someone reckons they've seen the number 6 inside the 2 exclamation marks. And I'm like, no, you haven't.
Really?
You absolute liar. You are looking for things that aren't there.
Liar!
Nice try.
That's an interesting one. I mean, to be honest, right, as much as that irks me in some ways, at least it's not like Scream 6 or something. Like, that's just lazy.
Well, it's funny because nowadays you never get films this long into a franchise that still have numbers. Like even the new Paddington film that's coming out, it's not called Paddington 3, it's called Paddington in Peru. I'm sure there's another one that's fairly soon, that's a third film that they've dropped the 3 from. I'm just like, are you scared that no one's going to go and see it? I mean, like, we all know it's the third one.
As soon as you get to that trilogy number, like, right, we've got to drop the number right now.
Like, wusses, honestly.
Wusses.
But yeah, you know what? I still need to rewatch the new one because I still remember really liking it and calling it the best Scream film, which is, again...
It wasn't that long ago where I actually watched it. It was on Prime's rent deal thing, so you can rent for like $1.99. It was on that deal, so I thought, oh, may as well.
I'm sure... whichever episode we did where you rewatched it, I think that was the same one that I rewatched, Halloween Kills, which I thought was quite funny.
Yes, it was.
Not the film, it isn't very funny, it's just, bloody.
It's not very fun.
No, it's not
very
fun.
bloody.
Well, it's fun depending on your version of
just
fun.
not funny.
Yeah, funny. But yes, that is the news. That feels very, very quick this week. But it makes sense because we've got a lot to talk about. So we're going to move swiftly on to Dan's watch list, as we're now going to call it, or Dan's playlist.
Oh, no.
Right, okay, now look.
May as well be a fucking playlist at this point.
I was going to say, okay, so you've said before we actually started this episode that you've now hit a record for the most amount of things that you've watched. Now, your previous record, I believe, was 25. I'm going to kill you if this gets near 40.
Are you ready?
I've run out of water.
36.
Oh, you absolute lobster.
How I've watched 36 things is beyond me. I don't know.
Well, in fairness, I'm pretty certain you've watched an entire series of Doctor Who, so I'm pretty certain that
yes, I have.
Most of it.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
And first up, Man vs. Bee, the entirety of it. I mean, it was only like... Well,
8
after like the
episodes.
first episode, it's only like under 20 minutes each or something like that. So, may as well have just watched the entirety of that. I'm curious to know your thoughts on this because I grew up with Mr. Bean, so I found this absolutely hilarious.
I found it more hilarious than I care to admit. Like, just as a concept, it's like it's fucking perfect. It also feels quintessentially British.
Oh yes.
And yeah, there's a lot of shock humor, but it's shock humor that's done really well. It kind of goes a little bit off the rails, and I like it less when it gets really serious. And no offense, I really want people to stop hiring people who are in, I believe, their 60s, who clearly have like a 16-year-old kid.
No.
That's just weird. Sorry, Rowan Atkinson, you're an absolute legend, and you were born where I live, not in this house, but very, very close. Because he hails from bloody Concert, and you wouldn't be able to tell with his accents.
No, it's mad to think, isn't it?
He's actually one of us. He's a northerner.
Yeah.
In hindsight,
yeah,
you can
I
tell.
think it was pretty funny. As I say, like growing up with Mr. Bean, I just have come to love Rowan Atkinson, and the complex, like the whole plot thing of this bee that just causes this absolute mountain of chaos. It's just ridiculously fun. It's stupid, but it's so fun.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's maybe the 4th episode or something where the burglars come in and he's too occupied with trying to get the freaking bee and doesn't notice the burglars at all. It's just so funny.
and he's just like threatening the bee with just like every word possible, and you're trying to think
the burglars are behind the couch thinking that he's talking to him.
Yeah. I will
Where are
find you?
I know where you are. Oh, it was so funny.
God damn it.
Oh, now this one's going to be a surprise for you. The first episode of Stranger Things.
Finally.
Season 1, should probably say.
Finally.
Season 1, yeah, first episode.
Very, very early.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with it.
Good.
It's fun. It's fun. Probably maybe an episode every week, I'm thinking. But yeah, I'm liking it.
Yeah.
However, I'm liking this a little bit more.
Oh.
Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Oh, yes, we're back to that.
Yes, this is so fun. I mean, you know what I'm like with Evil Dead. I love the Evil Dead trilogy, so this was just the cherry on the cake, we'll say.
I did actually ask
so
you
fun.
I did actually ask you in last week's episode, but you didn't actually hear me, so it was kind of funny listening to me ask you in the editing phase that you just completely blindsided and just talk about something else. I'm like, how dare you, Dan?
Yeah, it is very good. They're not like your typical length in terms of a TV thing. Like most sort of like span for 40 odd minutes. Like the first episode is around 40 and then everything else is just under half an hour.
Right. So, I mean, like, does it
like
work?
20, 25 minutes.
Does it work for someone who hasn't watched Evil Dead yet? Would I be completely lost?
Yeah,
yes.
to some extent, because
Yeah.
Ash as a character, like, you have to sort of, because there's a lot of like reminisce to the events of Evil Dead and things like this. So you would have to watch it too. You probably could, but I think you would be confused if you did.
Right. Okay, fair
But
enough.
it is worth watching, and you need to watch Evil Dead. You need
Yeah,
to.
I will. Hell, I was actually going to watch the remake like a couple of months ago because people do actually really, really like that one.
Yeah, it's one of the most positively. What's the word?
One of the best remakes.
Yeah, essentially, it's just
Yeah.
one of the best remakes. I'd probably say it goes to be a favourable remake amongst people. I haven't seen the remake yet, but I will get to it.
Yeah.
So, we get into the Doctor Who era now.
Of course.
Specifically, Series 6. So, I'm not going to really talk about much of these. I'm just going to list them and with a general bit of info about them. So, first episode, The Impossible Astronaut. Very bluntly, this episode is just an absolute mindfuck.
Oh, yeah.
It's a two-parter. You get The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon. They're just an absolute mindfuck.
I can still remember when I first watched that episode. Like, it was the first series that I'd watched from the beginning, like live.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty certain that my sister was sat next to us while watching it. She was a little bit on Doctor Who when I was. And honestly, seeing her reaction to the silence and her legitimately getting freaked out, even I was getting freaked out. Which I still do a little bit.
They are creepy as shit. They are probably
yeah.
one of the creepiest enemies a Doctor Who ever has put out there.
I'd probably say that maybe one of the best designed ones as well. Like,
yes,
the prosthetics
without
and
a
the
doubt.
makeup and everything, and just like the simple suit. It's a nice clean suit that's not.
It's almost like an alien Slender Man in some ways. It's terrifying.
Well, because I mean, there's a bit of Slender Man and not Max Trex. The Scream, that painting, I forget the name of the artist, but there's a lot of similarities to that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I love it, frankly. I think it's great.
Now, first film of this week's playlist, we'll say, finally watched it, An American Werewolf in London from 1981.
I spotted this on your Instagram story, and I was like, please tell me you have actually seen it, because I can't remember if you'd said that. And you've just told me.
I've never ever seen it before. This is like the first time watch for it.
It's good, isn't it? Please tell me it's good.
I fucking loved it.
Thank fuck, because I can't be asked if you turned around and said you didn't like it, because then I'd be turning this damn thing off.
It's got to be one of the most... It's just got to be the best werewolf film I've ever seen.
When you think about it,
that with Dog Soldiers as well. It's two of the
I
best
still
werewolf
maintain
films ever.
it's a lot more of a comedy than a horror. Even when it gets horror, it gets really scary. But it's absolutely a comedy first, which
it's
I completely
definitely a
forgot about
horror
for years.
comedy without a doubt, definitely a horror comedy, but it's still such a good bloody film.
There was actually someone at work last
Such a
week
good film.
who after I'd served them, I noticed that their shirts had an image of the slaughtered lamb on it. And I was like, I want to
Yeah.
say something, but
Do you know what it is, right?
work.
There is a prop that I'm after. You can get the slaughtered lamb, like, pub sign thing. I just want to put it on my wall.
Yeah, I really want to as well.
Yeah, I want to do that. Next up, we're back to Doctor Who now. This is the third episode of Series 6, The Curse of the Black Spot.
I actually love the concept of the siren in this. I think it's really good.
Oh yeah, like the pirate mythology of the siren and stuff like that, but it's just a bit...
Generic.
Yeah, that's probably the best word for it. Next up, The Doctor's Wife, so this is the fourth episode.
Neil Gaiman.
I can't remember a single thing about this episode.
Heresy.
Weirdly
My
enough.
God, Dan.
I really can't. A film I've wanted to watch for a while called The Ritual from 2017.
Oh, yes, The Ritual. Yeah, I haven't
this is
seen
on
it, but I know
Shudder
of
for
it.
those interested in watching it.
I have to get Shudder
It's good. Look, it is really good, but it's nowhere near what it could be. It's just too much like Blair Witch in some ways, but I think most films like this tend to be, because you can't really do anything too original. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's creepy as hell, and it definitely has some moments where it's made me feel very, very uncomfortable. So it is worth your watch, I'd say, Regan. It is
Okay.
definitely worth a watch. Next up, we're back to Doctor Who, The Rebel Flesh. So this is episode 5, and this is again a two-parter. So you get the Rebel Flesh and the Almost People. Fine.
Yeah.
I
I
guess.
mentioned this one
It's
last week,
fine.
and it's... Nah.
Weird. Weird, to say
Yeah,
the least.
weird.
Episode 6 of Miss Marvel, so this is the season finale, and of course the cameo that everybody knew was going to happen happened.
Yeah, I've seen the cameo. It is now the most I've seen of Ms. Marvel, and she's not even in that. She's not even in that bit. And I've still got no interest in
And-
watching the entire series.
Yeah, it was... I think it's probably the highlight of it for me. I guess we'll see what the next series brings if they do another series. I mean, they have a lot of TV things in the works at the moment, so I guess we'll see. Doctor Who, A Good Man Goes to War. So this is episode 7 from Series 6. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
good. Pretty good. Probably the most controversial one, I'm going to say. Let's kill Hitler.
Oh, you know what it is? Rory, tie up Hitler and put him in the cupboard over there. There has never been a more iconic line in fiction ever.
Do you know
Shut
what
up,
gets me
Hitler.
with it? Like, this episode and the future of River Song, it is just an absolute mind-boggling scenario. That she is Amy's daughter. It's like, what? What is going on? I can't take much
I had
more.
no idea. Spoilers, Dan. How are you?
Spoilers. A rewatch now, which was Guardians of the Galaxy. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. It's brilliant.
Ah, it's good. Yeah.
The score's fantastic. The characters are lovable. It's just a great film. As is the second one, though I prefer the first one much, much better.
Yeah, I think I now prefer the first one again over the second.
Now, here's my favourite Doctor Who episode from Series 6. Night Terrors.
Are you shitting me?
Oh, yeah.
Is this really your favourite?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we are going to get back to this in 2 weeks, and I'm going to tell you why you are so wrong. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, I think maybe I like it more because it's a horror episode. Creepy dolls, horror atmosphere, it's fine. It's a good episode if you're a horror fan like me, but if you're Regan, I'm just totally wrong, apparently.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I'm
you're
in the
just
wrong.
wildly misguided. which is the
Next
exact
up, The
same
Girl
thing.
Who Waited. I was mixed about this episode, I'm not going to lie, and we'll discuss it more when we actually get to talk about it, but I thought this was actually pretty crap to start with, and then it got good. So we'll talk about
Yeah,
it.
we're gonna have a lot to talk about.
Now, the next thing, I've wanted to watch this for absolutely years, and it's on BritBox, so I watched it. Des. This is
the
a
David Tennant
mini
thing.
sort of documentary about Dennis Nilsen, the British serial killer, who's played by David Tennant. Now, for those
serial
who
killer?
aren't aware what Dennis Nilsen looks like, you need to get up the image of David Tennant as Dennis Nilsen and Dennis Nilsen, the serial killer.
And they look identical.
Terrifying. Honestly, they could be twins. It's terrifying. It was really,
They
really
are,
good.
actually.
It was super good. Really, really good. And with it being like a documentary thing, it's in 3 parts, so it's not too long, really. I think it's.
Okay.
I think I liked it a lot more because it's shorter than most sort of documentaries that you get on Netflix, where it's like a 6-part slog. Because it just loses steam if it's that long, whereas this really didn't. This sort of just covered everything that needed to be covered in it. So
Yeah.
I would recommend you watch it. It's very, very good. Doctor Who, The God Complex. This is basically just the alien Shining.
We have things to talk about.
Yep. Oh, now this one I've got a feeling we're going to be talking about. Closing Time, the 12th episode of Series 6.
We have a runner-up.
More to be discussed. Now, this is a new one, Girl in the Picture. This is a documentary on Netflix about the disappearance and murder of Sharon Marshall / Tonya Hughes.
Ah, yes. I haven't watched it yet, but I definitely want to. There's actually a lot of serial killer missing kids stuff I want to watch, which sounds weird.
Yeah.
Like I say it out loud.
It's definitely the better Netflix documentary compared to some of the other ones, because as I say, like, some of them are pretty sloggy because they are like 6 episodes long, sometimes 4. 4, I think, is a good sort of stopping point. Anything else, you really struggle to do it in a day. This is just combined into a feature film, so I think it's like an hour and a bit long, an hour and a half, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
It's definitely better. I think the only thing that stops it from getting a higher rating from me is, anyway, it's just because of it being a feature film, it kind of jumps to things a little too quickly. You don't really get any context into who this character is until later on, kind of thing. It's like, so who's this now? What happened? It just kind of jumps everywhere, but it is very good. The Wedding of River Song, the 13th episode in Series 6. Yeah.
It is definitely
As the
an
Minecraft
episode.
villager would say. And the special, which is The Doctor, The Widow and the Wardrobe. Again, we're going to be talking about this because me and Regan definitely have some things to say on that. Special.
Fucking wood people.
Now, a rewatch of the original Thor. I just wanted to rewatch it for some reason. It's kind
Probably
of
because
funny
it's better
seeing
than the new
how
one.
young they are
Ah, yeah.
and
the
how much
bloody
of a
eyebrows.
brat that Thor is. He's such a brat in that film.
Oh, yeah.
Ash vs. Evil Dead episode 4 and 5, so I think I'm probably just going to end up watching the entire first season by next week, really. I'm enjoying it a lot. And now for my short film of this week. Probably the daftest film I've seen in a while in terms of a short film. It's called Fern, as in plant.
Okay.
It's from
It's hard to
2017, directed by Johnny Kelly. It's on Random Acts on YouTube. This is like a horror comedy, and essentially it is about a sentient fern that grows attached to its owner, like in love with it, and then owner gets a boyfriend and it becomes jealous of it, so it throws itself off the balcony and tries to kill the boyfriend. It's just hilarious. Honestly, you've got to watch it.
Uh-huh. Okay.
It's so fun. But yes, that is all 36 watches. Well, actually, I'll mention a game as well. I'll mention a game because we said we're going to do a few games as well. I've started my nightmare playthrough on Alien vs. Predator, and I'm hating it. It is so unforgiving.
Good.
Because when you play on hard difficulties, right, like there's usually some consequence into it. So Alien Isolations, for instance, you only get a certain amount of saves. Am I right in that?
Yes.
Or is it checkpoints, or is it lack of checkpoints?
I mean, there's already a severe lack of checkpoints to begin with, but
Yeah. Well, this follows that, right? But say if you're playing through, I don't know, the Predator campaign, right? And you get toward the end of a mission and you get killed. You've got to do the entire mission all over again. No checkpoints.
that's fine. I can work with that. No,
Can
I
you?
can't.
Can you?
I'd like to. I actually
it's
still
not
maintain,
very fun.
Yeah, I actually still maintain that Alien Isolation for the Nightmare mode should have had a setting where when you die, you don't start from the previous checkpoint, you start again entirely.
Yeah, like a no death thing. Yeah, that would be
I would
interesting.
rate-
That'd be
I would
super
love
hard
that.
though. Jesus.
I mean,
That
yeah,
would
it's
be
already fucking
brutal.
difficult. Yeah.
Because I remember Dead Space. Dead Space is a very terrifying game if you haven't played it. They have a very similar difficulty setting with that, but it revolves around checkpoints though. So again, it kind of goes with Alien vs Predator. Like if you fail, you only get a certain amount of allocated saves, so you can't like save every chapter. You've got to save like as little as possible.
Well, I mean, they're all on. Yeah, I think all the Dead Space games are on Game Pass, so I'll probably give it a go on there. I think.
It's terrifying. Don't play it in the dark. Whatever you do. And another game, I reinstalled. Just dropped my little playlist of paper there. It's not going to behave, so I'll put it down here.
That's fine.
There you go. I'll put it next to Michael Myers.
Professionals.
Yeah, professionals.
Yeah.
GTA 5, reinstalled it. I'm halfway through the story. I've done better this time around, though, because there is an achievement for getting gold medals, and I think I've got, like, gold medals on half of them. Didn't even intend to, I just did.
No.
I did, honestly. Like, I was just playing, and I was like, I've never done this. Like, one of them, the Polito score, I've never, ever managed to get gold in that, and I just totally winged it, and I got gold. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Is this some bug or something? But no, it turns out I did the right things. And I've been playing a bit of the online as well. Now, on console, I was what you would call a bit of a sweat with it. Because when it first came out, I played GTA Online for years. So I think I had like a level 700 character by the end of it. Moved to PC, but you can't transfer your character data from console to PC for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So it was starting all over again, wasn't it?
Oh, you poor thing. Honestly, you're going to have to work again.
I will say,
which is what I had to do.
there is definitely a certain level of bullshit with the console editions, because there is definitely a lack of modders, whereas PC, they're pretty much around every corner.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's beneficial, you know, they're nice, they just make it a fun game, they just turn you into snowmen and stuff, you know, that's fine and dandy. But when you're playing a heist or something and they start just causing chaos, it's not fun. It's game breaking.
Yeah.
So, I think I'm level 25 or something like that. So, I have a long way to go.
Yeah.
But I only really started playing this with the announcement that Rockstar were going to be making some changes to GT Online. Specifically, the selling of businesses in private lobbies. Because
Thank God.
doing that in public lobbies is not good. There's about sort of 1 chance out of 10 that you can do it without being killed, blown up, or griefed.
Yeah. Yeah, I always put our odds of losing everything as 10 to 10. It just happens.
Yeah. That little like 1
Beep, beep.
is
Beep, beep,
is a
beep,
very
beep, 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 beep,
thin
beep.
chance. Yep, that is literally it. It's
Fucking
literally just a
impressive, I
beep, 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 and then boom.
Yeah.
And then you've lost like 3 hours worth of grinding just because some idiot has a hover bike. And there you
You're
go.
the one with the hover bike done. Well, you used
I
to be
don't
the
have
one
it
with the
anymore
hover
because
bike,
I
and now you're
transferred.
not.
I don't have it.
Yeah, you did. And all I have is like an armored Karuma or something, whatever it's called. I've got absolutely no idea.
I think what I have so far
suit.
is a sport bike and some free car, because I got the game with the Criminal Enterprise pack because it was actually the same price as the game for some reason. Like, they just included it with it for the same price. So I thought, oh, well, why not? So you get some
You might
free
as well.
bonuses with that. I think you get
Yeah.
free weapons, clothes, cars, etc. So it was a nice little bonus. A few properties as well, so kind of saves you not having to like splash out instantly and be homeless. You have somewhere to live temporarily before you move somewhere else. It's going to cost like what, like 3 million or something. It's fine. It's fine. But yes, that is everything. 36 watches and 2 games. Well, 3 games technically. I mean, GTA Online's kind of set in its own universe, so technically.
Oh, it's
3.
absolutely its own game at this rate. I mean, bloody hell.
Yeah. So that's everything now. To Regan and his watch list, not playlist.
I'm going to start with the games first, just because I've only got 2 to talk about. So, with us being down with COVID this week, which it turns out I was actually with COVID in the last episode. I just assumed it was a cold. I'm clearly an idiot. But it's fine. It's all good. So, more of my time has been spent playing video games than watching films, though I have watched quite a bit this week anyway. Because I'm a nerd for Formula 1, I've been playing a lot of Formula 1 2021 because...
Naturally.
Geek for that. That's been quite funny. There's been a lot of moments that's just been quite funny with me just sliding off the track, just like a complete fucking moron. I think one of the funniest bits though was when I figured out that even in 2022, there is a split screen option. So even my girlfriend was like, "Can I give it a go?" I was like, "Yeah, why not? We'll give it a go." So we deliberately did just 3 laps. With her driving at like 25, 30 miles an hour. It was beautiful to behold, quite frankly.
It's like you're going around this track at like hundreds of miles an hour, and then you just like overlaps like your girlfriend, and she's just like going along the track really, really slow, like a Sunday driver.
Literally. Yeah, so I think I'm onto like... yesterday I'd gotten past the Spanish Grand Prix, which is the one I was at a couple of months ago, so that was quite fun. And then I went straight to the Monaco one next, which for those who don't know, Formula 1, essentially it's the cruelest track. It's just a street circuit and it's incredibly narrow. And despite dropping the AI difficulty down to like 10, so baby level, the drivers were still 6 seconds ahead of us. Because it's a horrible track, and I just kept on crashing. On like every other wall, there was just like a bit of the front mustache of the car just gone. So eventually, I found there was actually a button to just skip the race entirely, and it would use AI to determine what position I'd be in by the end. So I got 12.
Oh, right.
I was like, that's fine. That is actually 10 places higher than I thought I was going to be. If I'd actually made it to the end. And then literally the next one is another street circuit that's also very narrow and also really cruel. So I'm like, just great. Thanks. Thanks.
Skip.
Thanks, F1, you bastards.
Sean Bean would say, bastard.
Yeah. Next up was a game that I'd only started playing for the first time 3 years ago. And I can base that on the achievements. Because between the second and third achievement I got, there was a 3-year time difference. I went back to the first of the Bioshocks.
Ooh!
Yeah, I'd actually played Bioshock Infinite first. My good friend Callum was a big fan of these games, so he lent us Infinite, which, as far as I know, has no connections between the first 2 Bioshocks and Infinite, as far as I know.
No, it's kind of just its own thing. Instead of being underwater, however, you're in the air.
That seems fair, then.
You're in the clouds.
Yeah. I mean, the art design of Bioshock is absolutely impeccable. I think it looks absolutely amazing.
Oh, yes, without a doubt.
And I've been playing it a lot. It's definitely more... It's got more horror elements than I realised, namely with the people that just pop up and just start attacking you.
Splicers. Yep. So, how far are you into Bioshock?
I'm past the point where you had to hunt down a bunch of people and take photos of them for this guy for his art installation or something. So I don't actually
So
know how far into the game I actually am. Oh,
you're
actually, no,
quite
no, no, wait, sorry.
far.
I think I'm in Andrew Ryan's office.
Jesus
about
Christ, you're far.
What, so am I actually close to the end or something?
Yeah, if you're in Andrew Ryan's
Okay.
office, you're pretty close. If you've killed
Damn it.
Andrew Ryan, you're close.
I haven't yet, no.
Okay, you're not close.
Okay.
You're not close yet.
No.
So, there are these little characters within the world of Bioshock called Little Sisters.
Little Sisters, there you go. It is literally just that.
And, you think by seeing a small demonized girl it would be an easy fight. No, it's not. They're guarded by deep-sea divers called Big Daddies, which are just the absolute epitome of bad.
I actually thought they were quite cute initially. And then he started to kill me over and over again. And I was like, no, you're not cute anymore. Never mind.
Yeah. And if you thought that Big Daddy was difficult to kill, they get stronger and worse.
I know there was a red one that I saw pop up at one point. I don't know if it's just like a regionally specific version of the Big Daddy, depending on which part of Rapture you're in.
Well, put it this way. There is one Big Daddy you're going to run into that throws bombs at you.
Oh, excellent then. That's even better then.
Oh, yeah.
I can deal with that. It's fine.
Just what you need. Just what you need. Yes,
You know what it is though? Is that,
it's a fun game.
yeah, my biggest question though is actually why is it called Bioshock? Is there a reason for that?
I have no clue. I think it's just
I don't
called
get it either.
Bioshock for the sake of being called Bioshock.
Like, even Bioshock Infinite as a title doesn't make any sense to me.
Infant.
Yeah.
Bioshock Infant.
Infant.
The second
wait,
one
that-
is... Well, I suppose it's a turn of the table, so to speak, because you actually are the Big Daddy.
That's interesting.
This is
I
fine.
didn't know that. Thanks for spoil it, John, you dick. No, it's fine.
Yeah, it's pretty good, I must say. It's somewhat more challenging. But yeah, I'll leave that to you.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll start things off with Horrible Histories, Series 1. Don't you
Yes.
dare tell me. Now look, I don't think I've mentioned Horrible Histories to you. Please tell me that you don't think that this is complete garbage, because if you do, I'm actually going to hit you over the head.
Put it this way, those songs deserve to be on vinyl.
Oh, thank fuck. Okay, that's fine. Because yeah, I absolutely adore Horrible Histories.
Hi, I'm a
which is
shouty
weird.
man.
I really like the later ones that they do with him, where he's getting so loud and screamy that he's starting to choke and he's struggling to talk. But honestly, the bloopers as well, where he's doing it, is just it's just even better. The bloopers for Horrible Histories is beautiful. So we'd actually binged the first 5 series of Horrible Histories, I think early on in the pandemic, so we did like 20 plus seasons of The Simpsons, then we did Futurama, then we did a bit of Family Guy, and then we moved over to Horrible Histories, then we did Bottom, did some Doctor Who, and we thought, you know what, let's just go back to Horrible Histories because it's just fun. It's a nice
Yeah.
fun series. And yeah, for a show that's from 2009, plonk it in
God, is that how old it
2022.
is? Bloody hell.
Yeah, I mean, like, plonk it in 2022 and it'll work absolutely fine. It's great. So watch the first 3 episodes of that. We will eventually get to the rest of them, but we didn't go past series 5 because at that point the cast change. You get like Ben Miller as, you've got like celebrity appearances, and it's terrible to my knowledge. At the very least, it looks terrible. They get rid of Stupid Deaths. How dare they?
Oh, no!
Like, Stupid Deaths is the best thing in that series, and there's a lot of really good stuff in that series.
Stupid
Deaths, they're funny because they're true. Woo. I just love how there's a compilation on YouTube of them. It's just like all of them. I'm like, thank God, thank the maker.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so I've been watching that. First time watch. I'm kicking myself. How to Train Your Dragon. Never saw How
It's fine,
to
I've
Train
never
Your
watched
Dragon.
it either.
Yeah, I never got to it. first 20 minutes are, in fact, even the animation is, for like 2010. But then it just gets awesome by the end, and I love it. And it's annoying how 2 and 3 you can't get on any streaming service. So I'm going to see if they're like cheap to rent somewhere, or I'll see if I can get the Blu-ray.
I would have thought they would have been on Disney Plus. I mean,
the third one used to be on Netflix, but I wouldn't have watched that without seeing the first two because how weird. But yeah, I thought it was extremely entertaining, and the dragons are quite fun. And I did actually own one of the dragons. I believe it was in a Happy Meal from McDonald's years ago, but for some reason they just changed the colors of the dragons to make it easier to for the kids to figure out which is which. So I had one of the two-headed ones. For some reason the toy is like a really dark blue. In the film it's like a greeny orange sage kind of thing. I'm like, that is the exact opposite of what the toy is. I'm like, for Christ's sake, man,
Maybe
McDonald's, I
it's
know it's
twin.
basic, but how weird. Next up was the first 3 episodes of the first season of Smallville, which you know nothing about.
no,
somehow.
I don't know anything about this at all.
So we have all these superhero TV shows that are like on the air. You've got Superman and Lois, you've got The Boys, you've got Arrow, The Flash, and a lot of crap. It's all down to Smallville. That is the original one. This is set in Smallville, Kansas. Superman, dealing with Clark Kent in the years before he becomes Superman. Now, I have never watched the show in its entirety. I've seen bits and bobs. So I got the first 8 seasons in a charity shop for like 15 quid. So I was like, all right, and I can work with that.
Not bad, yeah.
They're on DVD as well, which I felt like was just like me committing like the cardinal sin.
That is you committing like the worst crime possible.
In fairness, though, if I want all 10 seasons on Blu-ray, it's like 50 quid. So
okay, yeah, so you have saved some money.
I'm making some savings here, and you can get the final 2 seasons on eBay for like 4 or 5 quid. So I'm like, yeah, I might as well. I'll get those at a later date because it's American television. They're 20 episodes, all 40 minutes. So I've got hundreds of hours. Annoying.
Yep.
I wanted to rewatch this though because the lead actors Tom Welling, who plays Clark Kent, and Michael Rosenbaum, who plays Lex Luthor, are doing Talkville, which is a podcast where each week they go through every single episode and dissect it and talk about the behind the scenes and everything. And I'm just like, I'm there. I want that. Because there's like 217 episodes. I'm like, excellent. You now have 217 episodes worth of content to pump out over like 5 years.
Yeah. God.
But yes, it's fascinating to watch because it's the first season from 2001. You can absolutely tell because the visual effects are 2001, but not like 2001.
It'd be like
they're just like the year 2001.
It'll be like Spider-Man by Sam Raimi, like the first one. It's very 2000. Very 2000.
Yeah. Somehow the visual effects in Spider-Man is better than, well, of course they're better than Smallville because it's a film, not a TV show. It is doing the whole villain of the week thing, which I find is quite cute. Cause I'm like, oh, it's more than just Doctor Who that does that. It's like the second episode, you got a guy who, it's basically like The Fly, but not nearly as compelling, as it turns out. And then the third one is the Human Torch, but he's the villain and he's a football coach. So
right.
Okay, why the hell not?
Yeah, I mean,
I just
maybe he got tired of being the good guy.
Yeah. And for anyone wondering, no, he doesn't wear the suit until the final shot of the final episode of season 10, and it's not even real. It's not even Tom Welling because he's been very vocal about how he didn't want to wear the suit. Good for you. Because it's weird because it's not like, I don't think it's meant to be a prequel to the Christopher Reeve films, even though the suit is from Superman Returns. So it's a weird blend of, it's a prequel, but not to, the things that we've been watching. It's a bit like with Gotham, where that's a prequel to the Batman stories, but not specifically to any films or anything. Next up, Halo, Season 1, Episode 6. I mentioned last week that last week's episode was the strongest.
Yes.
This season's taken a while to find its footing, but I am finding it very intriguing. We will be talking about. I am actually going to break my rule, which I started a couple weeks ago, where I was going to stop doing like Regan reviews. But I don't have a platform to review Halo, so it's going to have to be this. So in a couple of weeks, I'll be talking about this in relation to adaptations of things, because I've already said this retcons a lot of the Halo lore from the games, and I assume the comics and some other stuff. But I still maintain, I've always said this, is like, as long as what you're doing with it is interesting in its own right, then I don't mind. There's 3 more episodes, so that'll be in about 3 weeks when I do a full breakdown of the series, because I am starting to like it. It's taken nearly 6 hours.
Right.
I do like it. It's obviously
only taken around 6 episodes.
I mean, it's nowhere near as compelling as the games, because of course it isn't, but it's also not trying to be the games, which I can appreciate. So I don't mind. Watch episode 7, just be absolute hot garbage. No in my freaking luck.
I mean, I think that was the thing that was worrying people, that it was just going to be like the games. So I'm kind of pleased that it's borrowing from the games, but it's not trying to be the games.
It's definitely borrowing, but it is very much just doing its own thing. Obviously, the thing with Master Chief taking off his helmet, I don't mind at this point, because at least they're humanizing the poor thing, which is what they don't do in, well, they do it in the more recent games, but they do it without removing the helmet, which I actually think is a positive. But you can't do that in a TV show with the lead character, although I suppose you can with something like The Mandalorian. That did it pretty well. But him not taking off his helmet is baked in. There's no actual reason in the games why he doesn't remove the helmets, because there's plenty of Spartans that do. It's just done because it's easier. But yeah, it's certainly an interesting show, I'll say that. Next up, a first-time watch of the original The Invisible Man. The remake of which I saw, was it last week or the week before?
And I'm still yet to watch it.
It's very much not a horror film. It's very much a comedy. It's funny. It's quite funny. Where, like, you have the lead character, Jack Griffin, as opposed to Aiden Griffin in the Lee Winnell one, which is a nice callback.
Yep.
I wasn't expecting the names to be similar. So he finds a way to become invisible, and he just goes completely insane, and he just starts messing with people. I'm like, I'd do that. I'd absolutely do that. But also,
it's very
just
logical,
like,
isn't it? It's like if you go invisible, you just want to start messing with people. You don't want to kill them, you want to mess with them.
But the iconic design... Yeah, and the iconic design of like the goggles and the bandages and the hat. I love that as a design. I think it's great. But even just like the effects, like literally when he pulls off the bandages and there's just nothing underneath, I'm like, that's actually really well done for 1933. Really well done. And again, it's like 74 minutes long. It's very, very brief. And again, once it ends immediately. There's nothing else afterwards. There's no post-credit scenes that are setting up a confrontation with like the Wolfman or something. Annoyingly, I would have liked that. That would have been quite funny.
I mean, I wouldn't like one with the Invisible Man, because I think that would just be taking it a bit too far. But get ready for Frankenstein v the Wolfman, or the House of Frankenstein, or whatever. It's all there. It's all there, Regan. Well, you've watched The Invisible Man. You're going to have to go through all now. You've got to watch them all.
Well, maybe I'll watch another one this week. Maybe.
Ooh. Good.
Next one isn't the next one in the series. It's actually the Bob's Burgers movie.
Yes, this is on Disney+.
Yeah, which I didn't know was actually coming to Disney+. It just sort of appeared. I was like, oh, okay. My girlfriend's a big fan of Bob's Burgers, like, a lot. So, if this was in cinemas, I missed it entirely. I know it did come to cinemas in the US, but I don't know if it was in the UK, if it was, like, limited or whatever. I would have gone to see it with her. I wouldn't have gone to see it myself, because I'm not a fan of this series. I've seen bits and bobs when when she's put it on, and I've got like a very vague understanding of the show.
Yeah.
So when they announced they're doing a film, I'm like, okay, is it going to be closer to the Simpsons movie, or is it going to be closer to the Bad Education movie? It's certainly a bit closer to the Simpsons movie. I thought it was quite fun, even for someone who was completely uninitiated with this show. Thought it was quite enjoyable. Not nearly as funny as I think it was trying to be. Then again, a lot of the humour comes from the family dynamic these characters have, because they feel like a proper family, which I think was one of like the biggest praises I could give it. Like, they all talk to each other the exact same way a family would do. And it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's like 80... No, actually, it's not. I think it's like an hour 40 something or other, so it's actually decent.
Yeah, I remember seeing the runtime for it. It's not too bloated in terms of a runtime. It's around an hour 40, I want to say.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was sufficiently enjoyable. I don't think I'd watch it again, which I think was the same for her as well. But, you know, it is what it is. So I always make the joke, I don't know if I've done it on the podcast properly yet, but I know I've done it in like real life, where anything with a shark in it, beyond Jaws and maybe Shallows,
you know,
it's not a
and
film.
you have the audacity, the absolute audacity to say I watch smut.
You do.
So what smutty shark film have you indulged in?
It is a National Geographic episode called 50 Shades of Sharks. It's 45 minutes.
Right.
And literally the first 20 minutes is shark smut.
Right.
I learned more about shark anatomy than I ever have in like any shark film and or documentary in the past.
Was it just one of these things where you didn't know what to watch, so you thought you'd watch the shark version of 50 Shades of Grey?
It's literally there. It's literally called it. We're both like, fuck it, we'll put it on. It's not good. Look, it's fine, but it doesn't really live up to the title, quite frankly. I was hoping for, well, without sounding really weird, I was expecting a lot more.
I was expecting some kinky shark sex is what you were expecting.
I'm here for the kinky shark sex and nothing more. You couldn't even deliver on that.
Good God, you're a weirdo.
Like, honestly, like... It also does that thing, like, I cannot stand animal documentaries with American narration, because they're so overly dramatic, it's frankly a joke. So I much prefer the more soft-spoken, intelligent voice that is David Attenborough, and someone else who's English, probably. I can't remember who the hell did the narration for this. I'm fairly certain he's also a voice actor. I think he popped up in the Long Halloween Part 2, I think. Yeah, American narration is garbage. It's fine. I wanted more kinky shark sex because that's all I want in life anymore. But moving on.
Dear God.
Dear God. Dear God to something decidedly better. And one that's going to make you quite happy, I'd like to think. It's Halloween H2O. It's not. It isn't actually.
False hope. Talk about false hope.
I mean, Howie, I'm not watching that. No, I
Yeah,
watched
you
The
don't.
Bride of Frankenstein.
Yes!
Yes!
You
You know, as in The Bride of
finally watched
Frankenstein, who's in it for
something good.
like 17 seconds.
So, what are your thoughts on it?
I'm definitely with other people. I do think it's better than the original one.
Yep.
I do. It's funny. I used to have a book on like mythological creatures when I was a kid, and The Bride of Frankenstein popped up in that, which is funny because there's not a mythological creature. Neither's Frankenstein, and I like how it even explains in that how Victor Frankenstein is still alive in that one. I'm like, hang on a second, I'm adamant he dies at the end of the original film, but then in
Yes.
this instance, it's Mary Shelley altering the ending and presenting a different one, so it's like the longest epilogue on the planet.
Yeah.
And I mean, I thought it was pretty solid. I don't think it's like one of the greatest sequels ever made. I think it's a bit of a high peak there. I still enjoyed it. I did like the fact that there's more development given to the monster as well, which I really appreciated. And I just love how these characters don't learn a damn thing, like, at all. They're just idiots. 1930s idiots. Every single time. Though I do
1930s idiots.
Though I do like the fact that the actress who plays the Bride of Frankenstein also plays Mary Shelley. I quite like that. That's actually kind of funny.
She does.
But it's weird because I didn't know that Mary Shelley and Lord Byron was going to be in this, but I find it hilarious how the costume for Lord Byron is virtually identical to the costume that Lord Byron wears in Doctor Who Series 12, like with like the massive collar and the frilly jackets. I'm like, it's absolutely identical. That's hilarious. I also didn't realize that there's more Bride of Frankenstein stuff than I realized in Van Helsing. But then again, I feel like if you're gonna reference any of them, you're gonna reference the one that people consider to be the greatest one. Van Helsing's good. Shut up, Dan. Shut up. I'm gonna do a 3-hour video exclusively on Van Helsing, and you're gonna be there as well.
How it is like an absolute piece of fecal matter.
And you sit down and watch a load of Halloween films just constantly, and you have the temerity. The temerity, Dan!
You know what it is, right? I'd rather watch Halloween 6 over and over again than having ever indulged in Van Helsing.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, I wish I was. That is how much I really dislike that film.
You know what it is, right? I like the fact that before we record any of these, I say to myself, I want to know how long it's going to take before we do an episode where there's no swearing, and then you ruin it.
Me ruin it? You're the one who starts this.
Yeah, but I do it without swearing.
Oh, do you
and
now?
Then you
all
start
right,
swearing.
then. Okay.
And then I think, oh, just screw it. I'll just continue swearing as well.
All right, yeah.
Because why the hell not?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Dickhead. 23 episodes I've had to put up with you. That's 6 months. 6 months,
23
Dan.
episodes I've had to put up with your absolutely disgusting appreciation for that monstrous film.
Excuse me, I haven't been talking about it every single week. But I'm going to now.
Oh, I know you're going to have to, like, referencing the Doctor Who, now you're just going to have to do it with Van Helsing.
I'm more than happy to do that.
Oh no, that's a bad idea suggested there, Dan. Nice one, chum.
Best version of Dracula outside of Nosferatu.
But anyway,
I've also been watching some Doctor Who. It's also been Doctor Who Series 6. It's also been decidedly less.
Oh, yay. I wish I watched decidedly less.
No, you don't. So I watched the first 5 minutes of A Good Man Goes to War, and then I kind of gave up.
Right.
So I actually skipped several episodes ahead to The Girl Who Waited and The God Complex, which, as you say, we will be talking more about in a couple of weeks. But I think it's safe to say we have very differing opinions on these 2 episodes. Oh.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
One is better than the other. That's enough.
What a conundrum is most of Series 6, to be honest. But I'll tell you what is a bigger conundrum is me opting to do a rewatch of Plan 9 from Outer Space, directed by the auteur Ed Wood. He isn't an auteur, he's a terrible director.
Right. I mean, I've got this film in my watch list, but it's going to be one of those films where I'm going to watch it where I have absolutely nothing to do at all.
It's atrocious.
A film.
Like, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to sit here and try and claim it's actually a misunderstood masterpiece, like some idiots on YouTube are now starting to do, where they're like, oh, The Phantom Menace is actually one of the greatest films of all time. It fucking isn't. Can we just stop? Okay. I remember someone doing that for like Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I'm like, please just stop. Like, stop wasting your limited time on this goddamn planet to try and tell people that Amazing Spider-Man 2 is actually good, because it's not. Plan 9 from Outer Space is also not good. I mean, Ed Wood is essentially like the 1950s equivalent of Tommy Wiseau when he did The Room. Both of which are terrible films, and both of which had biopics made that are absolutely amazing. With Ed Wood, directed by Tim Burton. That's actually his best film. I'm just saying it. And the Disaster Artist in 2017 with James Franco. Yeah, look, it's pretty hilarious, especially when you get with the aliens, and it trumps, and I mean trumps, every single crappy science fiction nonsense bits you get in like old school episodes of Doctor Who, because they're clearly not aliens. They have furniture clearly from IKEA.
Right. Oh boy,
they have space guns. They literally call them space guns. They don't tell you what planet they're from. They just said they are from another planet. I'm like, which one?
Ah, yes.
Another one.
Really in depth.
A different one, I promise. And the flying saucers are just hung on string, and they're just sort of like pulled along the screen.
So it was doing a Doctor Who Dalek invasion of Earth there.
It's diabolical. It's utterly diabolical.
It sounds it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does sound quite diabolical.
I mean, look, you have to watch it just to say that you've seen it. Like, it is. It's especially one of the worst films
From what you've described, this is a film that I'd rather watch Sharknado or something.
It's a Van Helsing.
I was very close to saying that, but no.
Yeah, you were. And the final one is Censor, released in 2020, which I believe is on your watch list. I think it is.
Yes.
I'm pretty certain it is. This is the one that I refuse to fork out like 50 quid for the limited edition Blu-ray.
Yeah.
As much as I love Second Sight films, I'm not doing that. So I just watched it on Mubi. Quite good. I don't love it nearly as much as other people do. I think even Mark Kermode was just glowing all over the film when it was initially released. Sorry, 2021, not 2020. Quite good. I quite like the concept, especially of it focusing on a film censor. Like, all of a sudden I'm like, that sounds like a really fun job. I'd quite like to do that. There's also a lot more actors from Doctor Who than I realised in it, which I thought was quite funny.
There
and
is
all of
quite
them
a
just played
few.
dickheads.
It's really surprising.
Yeah.
Certainly surprised me when I looked up the cast. I was like, oh.
As you do. Yeah, I thought it was okay. It definitely lost me in a few places, but it's only like 82 minutes long, or 84. So, nice and quick. Yeah, it was quite good. But that's my watch list, /playlist, /things I've been doing while I've been ill. Because I'm not watching hard-hitting stuff. This week I just can't do it, so instead I'll watch 50 Shades of Sharks and Plan 9 from Outer Space.
50 Shades of Sharks.
Watch us next week, decide to watch
it is, right? I've seen that
all of the Lord of the
documentary
Rings
pop up
and The Godfather and shit like that. Just like the
I saw that
opposite.
documentary pop up on Disney Plus, and I was just like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm known for watching smut every now and then, but that was just no. But you've done it for me, so thank you. You've done someone a service. Because now I know not to watch
and the ironic thing being that you like to watch smut, and there's not nearly enough smut in 50 Shades of Sharks.
Right. Do we have to go back to the conversation earlier?
Which one? There was a few of them.
Well, not 50 Shades of Sharks, that's for one.
Sharks. Anyway, let's move on, because we've had enough technical difficulties to fill, an entire episode, to be honest. That would be quite funny. I could just do like an entire episode dedicated to bits when when like Google Duo and Zoom and Hangouts and Messenger just crashes and we just have to wait. That probably amounts to about 2 hours, so it's fine.
Oh, probably. It's probably
yes,
like
we
the
are
equivalent
returning.
of like a half of a Snyder film.
And yet somehow better. Ooh, yeah, I went there.
Ooh.
But yes, we are returning to the Whoniverse with Doctor Who Series 5. 12 years later. It's 12 years old. Bugger me.
It's mad.
So,
I know.
I've got a lot of things to talk about. Along with plenty of trivia and stuff like that. So, Series 5 was the biggest departure since the show came back in 2005. Biggest production team shift. We've got a brand new production team, brand new showrunner, brand new producer, brand new lead doctor, brand new companion, brand new TARDIS, both inside and out,
pretty much
a
brand
new
new
Sonic, a brand
everything,
new
really.
logo, brand new titles and brand new theme. That's 10 things. Nearly had 11. Howie. So Moffat did this interview with, I believe it was the fan show on YouTube, Doctor Who The Fan Show, which is one of the replacements for Doctor Who Confidential. It's not great, it's a bit, but I like watching the 3-part interview that he did, and he spoke about the production of Series 5, and he was like, David and Catherine were leaving, everything was changing, and the best way to conceal that level of change was to just change everything. If everything changes, it looks like a bold new decision and a new era. Frankly, if David and Catherine had wanted to continue, which I will get to in a second, I wouldn't have done that. It would have been the same TARDIS because there was no way that version of the show was worn out. So because everything was changing, you might as well just change it up, which is something that Chibnall does as well in 2018 to less successful effect, unsurprisingly, which I've never mentioned before. Speaking of Chibnall, he writes 2 episodes of Fecal Matter in this series. Yes, so we have 14 episodes. Stephen Moffat writes 7, which is The 11th Hour, The Beast Below, The Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone, Pandorica Opens, The Big Bang, and A Christmas Carol. Chris Chibnall has 2. For some reason, was he being rewarded for doing like a shit or something? I don't know. Well done, Chris. Now you can write 2 episodes. Like, oh, thanks, Stephen. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
So he wrote The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. You got Mark Gatiss back for Victory of the Daleks. Toby Whithouse for The Vampires of Venice. Oh, that's an episode. You got Simon Nye for Amy's Choice. And you got Gareth Roberts for The Lodger and Richard Curtis for Vincent and the Doctor. So, I think I mentioned when you rewatched a lot of Series 5 a couple of weeks ago that I was going to reference a little bit of trivia about the initial plans for Series 5, which I don't know if you already know about. I'm hoping you don't, because it'd be quite fun.
No, I mean, you know far more about this series in terms of trivia than I do, so take the wheel, Captain.
Even better. So, Stephen Moffat revealed in 2018 that when Series 5 went into pre-production, David Tennant still hadn't actually left. So he was actually contemplating staying on for the 5th series, instead of just leaving after the end of time. So, Moffat's initial idea was the show would still open with the Doctor crashing into Amelia Pond's garden when she's a kid. He's battered, he's bruised, she'd nurse him back to health with something that isn't fish fingers and custard, because that's very much an 11 thing, not a 10. He'd be fine, and then he'd go off in the TARDIS and leave. Horrible, frankly. And he'd then meet her still years later, when she's an adult, but he's got no memory of her at all. And as we go through the series, we realise that what we've actually met is the end of the series, and that's the Doctor about to regenerate. So he'd end up back in that garden. Quite interesting, to say the least. But it's quite clear that was going to be his final series. He couldn't do another one. But even still, I mean, Moffat does like the 10th Doctor really well. So if he did stay on for the 5th series, I wouldn't have minded. That being said, we wouldn't have Series 5 as it is, and that would have been a real shame, because this series absolutely rules. I've said this before in the past. I still maintain this is the best series of Doctor Who, just full stop. Has it got issues? Of course it does. Any series of Doctor Who has issues, but even like
you
the
can't
weakest episode of the
say that like
series-
no Doctor Who series is in some ways without its flaws, because there's always going to be flaws. Like, it's
Yeah,
just the way
definitely.
it is.
Yeah, and even the weakest episode I still like, which we will get to later. So we'll do a quick rundown of what we think of the new things for this series before we get to the man himself. The TARDIS gets its first major redesign since coming back in 2005. I much prefer
Actually,
both. I much prefer the exterior and the interior now.
yeah, I think when I first watched it, I wasn't really fussed on it, but now I think after a rewatch of series 5 and 6, I think it's growing on me. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I actually had the console room as a toy. I mean, it was terrible. Like the dimensions are all over the place, which is ironic, because dimensions is in the fucking title of the thing. It's all like squashed and stuff. A lot of it is just made of cardboard and it's rubbish.
Yes.
I never owned the 10th Doctor one, but it's annoying how like the console doesn't do anything. Like there's no effects or anything.
It's just like
sits
there.
But you do get a little swing underneath, which I thought was quite funny. I mean, it's certainly not my favourite console room, which we'll get to in a couple of series times. It's obviously 13 start. No, it's not. It's shit. But I do like how it feels more lived in compared to the previous one, which is literally, it looks like the console room and nothing else. It doesn't look like there's any other rooms, whereas this one, it feels like you've got stairs going in this direction, you've got underneath, you've got stairs in that direction. It feels feels less of like a car, and it feels more like a caravan.
Without a doubt.
We'll go with that. I also much prefer the exterior as well. I think the blue's a lot stronger. I really love the St. John's Ambulance logo. I don't care. I think it's great having it on. It's a nice callback to the original TARDIS, but also the Peter Cushing films, because that's on there as well.
Yes.
Somehow there's quite a few references
Indeedy.
to the Peter Cushing era in this series in particular, which at the time I didn't know because I hadn't seen it, but in retrospect, it's right there. It's nuts. We also get a new sonic screwdriver as well. Again, it's the best one. And again, I'm not biased just because I have the toy of it now. Because I'm 24. Obviously.
No Who even is complete without some prop toy.
Oh, it's
Doctor Who.
absolutely a prop.
Specifically a screwdriver.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I mean, also, it kind of goes back to why my favourite lightsaber from Star Wars is Luke Skywalker's green one. I just like green in like science fiction. So a green sonic screwdriver works really well for me, quite frankly.
I think when I first started watching it, the first notable change was, of course, the title sequence, like totally and utterly different compared to the David Tennant one.
definitely.
Like,
Also
I didn't
the first.
actually like it at first because I just didn't. But now it's memorable, I'd go to say. It looks a lot better, I think. Like, there's the actual TARDIS like going through different galaxies, etc. So it looks so much better, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say the titles are absolutely terrific. I still love the new theme as well. It's still my
Yes,
personal
I was going to
favourite.
say the theme is really good, and when it just gets to like fiery pit and then the title just comes up on the screen, I love that. It's really cool.
I do also like, I mean, even the Time Vortex itself, I think it's still the best version because time travel in itself is extremely dangerous, and now the Time Vortex actually reflects that, where it's all stormy and loads of lightning and shit.
Oh yeah, you get the TARDIS gets struck by lightning, I think like 2 times
twice.
in that title sequence.
Yeah. No, it's still definitively the best one. And it's weird because people always kicked off because like, oh, it sounded incredibly different. Just go back and listen to the classic Doctor Who themes. They changed dramatically over the years because they have to, but the beats are still there.
Oh yeah, you have to do
much like
something
another
to change
thing.
it up.
Yeah. And much like another thing that people decided to turn away from because he's not David Tennant is Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. Beating out, not literally, thankfully, but beating out Peter Davison by 3 years by being the youngest actor ever cast at 26, 2 years older than me. Hint, hint, Regan. Time to go to the BBC. No, I'm not playing the Doctor. I couldn't do that. I'll write for it, but I'm not playing them. It's actually interesting where I think usually I despise the idea of someone really young playing a character that's supposed to be really old. But I think for Matt it works really well. He's able to capture the age. Like, he's got the age behind the eyes perfect. Who hides behind a smile to kind of repress that painful past that this particular incarnation is running away from. And you know, I've said from day one, he's still my Doctor, so he's my favourite overall, especially in Series 5. I think he's absolutely remarkable.
I think he's definitely not my favourite one, but I'd say it's very close in terms of second place. I think it's just Tennant. I'd say I grew up with Tennant, so it's just got to be Tennant. But Matt Smith, I really
well,
liked.
exactly. I mean,
he was super cool. He brings a lot to the Doctor in this one.
Yeah, because I mean, if I'd gotten to Doctor Who earlier, I definitely would have been with Tennant, quite frankly. But because I went with Matt, it just comes off by default. The costume as well is not my favourite, but I still really like the tweed jacket and the bow tie. Again, things I'm less likely to wear in real life, which is ironic for me, and especially after Comic-Con. Which, you know, I've already said the Series 7B costume is superior to the Series 5 one. But at least with A Christmas Carol, we get the better tweed jacket, which I already prefer. We've also got a new companion, Amy Pond, played by Karen Gillan, who's now unfortunately best known for her work in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm like, no, you're just Amy. Sorry. Just by default, I prefer you as Amy.
I think it really depends on people. Like, for people who have never ever heard of Doctor Who, like, yeah, fair enough. But I mean, I'm pretty sure that the majority of people know her from Doctor Who.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, she's in it for a lot. Well, 2 series so far that I know of. Because obviously I haven't really gone past Series 7 yet, so... there's like a running trend with some of the characters in the Moffat era where the characterization is nowhere near as good as the performance. I think Amy's better in Series 6, quite frankly. In particular with her relationship with Rory. I feel like I can buy that a lot more in Series 6. There's a lot more done. In particular with Rory, who is just kind of like a comedic afterthought for most of this series. And as people have made the running joke a lot of, he keeps on dying. Which I think Moffat trumps with Clara when like she appears and she just keeps on dying. No spoilers, it's fine. But he's also a lot better in Series 6 and 5, even if there's a lot of good moments with him, in particular with some of the bits of Vampires of Venice, and in particular with Amy's Choice. Really terrific. Yeah, I think I noticed her performance better in Series 6 with that episode. It's fairly obvious that it's one of her standout performances.
Yeah. I can't really delve too much into the story, into like the overall story arc, because it's not like with Russell T Davies where it's just one series, or at least one arc per series. It's one that goes across the entirety of the 11th Doctor's era. So that's a little bit until we get a Series 6. Cracks. Thoroughly creepy. I really like the concept of, if you fall into a crack, you just vanish from the entirety of existence. That's kind of terrifying. You get that great bit in Flesh and Stone when the soldiers keep on sending people to go and find the crack, because to them they haven't sent anyone yet, even though Amy's sat right there thinking, you're sending like 3 or 4 people, you keep on doing it. Like no, we're not. It's actually really sad.
It's like, well, who's that? It's like, you've just sent him.
Yeah. And then it eats Rory. Yes! No, not really. It's a bit redundant how he fake dies in like the previous story and then dies again. I'm like, oh, for God's sake. That being said, it still hits really, really hard and it's still really emotional, even if it's in a Chibnall episode. So by default, it doesn't work. But the setup, the setup is there. Quite frankly for the story arc. Whether or not it wraps up very well, we'll definitely get to a little bit later in this podcast. Not this episode in particular, because we haven't got enough time to do that, and we're not talking about 3 series worth of Doctor Who in one episode. Like, Christ almighty. What we can talk about is what we think our favourite episode is. I'm very curious on yours. I've got a horrible feeling I know which one this is, and I'm actually going to kill you if it is.
I'm going to have to load up the little thing with the episodes on. Okay, so...
That seems fair.
This is a toughie. This is proven to be the most challenging one in terms of picking a Doctor Who episode that's like favourable compared to the other ones that we've done where I've been able to like pick one pretty easily. This one was hard. Okay, this one was difficult. Ooh. Yeah. I'm gonna honestly say Vincent and the Doctor.
I
think
a natural
that is
one.
Just such a beautiful episode. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's sad as hell.
I've got that
but
as
it's
my.
So
oh yeah,
lovely
definitely.
At the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So easily my favourite, without a doubt. But in terms of a runner-up, I think we'll go for a runner-up as well.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh. I think I would probably say.
Decisions.
Ooh, now will I get killed for saying this? Oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh, I swear. Bear in mind, this is the runner-up, so it's fine. Well, it's not fine anyway, depending on what it is.
Vampires of Venice.
I would absolutely go for that as like the biggest guilty pleasure episode of Doctor Who ever. Like,
yes,
it is utterly ridiculous.
You know what it is, right?
And
like,
really stupid.
If I was to rewatch this series and I couldn't be asked to just go through it, I'd probably pick that as like the starting episode. Like, without a doubt, it's just a guilty pleasure. It's such a guilty pleasure.
I do like how within the series, the events of that episode are taken completely for laughs. Like, they constantly reference like sexy fish vampires in Venice and stuff like that. Yeah. I was like, wow.
Yeah. So,
I'll go with my runner-up first.
Yep. Okay.
Which is your winner, Vincent and the Doctor.
Yep.
It's only let down by the visual effects on the Crephaeus creature thing, but everything else is amazing. Maybe a waste of Bill Nighy, who filmed this stuff in a day. I'm like, oh, for God's sake. Although I think from what I know, as far as I know, I think Bill Nighy even being in this was done deliberately because they didn't think people would take a biography of Vincent van Gogh seriously from just an actor, so they went with Bill Nighy because he's got that on-screen presence. I'm like, we care about Vincent van Gogh, just make it a good episode, and you did. But Tony Curran as Van Gogh is potentially the best historical celebrity character the show's ever done.
Oh, yes.
I'd honestly say the only runner-up would honestly be Mary Shelley in Doctor Who Series 12. Again, there are things in the Chibnall era I like. What are the odds of that? But yeah, it was very close. But I'm still going to go with the best episode of Series 5. Probably the best 11th Doctor episode. One of the best episodes of Doctor Who ever. Potentially my favourite episode of Doctor Who. Full stop.
Right, okay, can you stop with the teasing and just announce it?
A Christmas Carol. Fucking adore this thing.
That's interesting. Oh,
I love this thing. I will actually, you know what it is? I will be referencing this episode again when we do the episode on Halo and adaptations, because I actually think it's one of the best adaptations of anything ever. Because it's not entirely like the book. And I've seen a lot of renditions of A Christmas Carol over the years, quite a few of which during the pandemic. Over Christmas, there was like 3 or 4 different versions. This is my favourite version. I love the concept of the Doctor being the Ghost of Christmas Past because he's got the TARDIS. I love Amy and Rory being the Ghost of Christmas Presents because they're in danger and their danger is what's propelling everything. And I like how the young Kazran Sardik is the Ghost of Christmas Future, which is ironic because he's in the past.
How it all interconnects is,
so,
I think that's what makes that episode so
it's so
memorable.
good.
Yeah.
I also love the logic of using the TARDIS to basically retcon bits of Kazran's past to make him nicer, which is probably the kindest way to do it, but it's also really manipulative, so it's a great blend of the two. Michael Gambon, like, for like big celebrities to appear in Doctor Who, I think he's one of the best. He's absolutely wonderful in this thing. But also Katherine Jenkins is terrific, and she doesn't act. She's literally just a singer, and she's amazing in this. And the original song,
I know. When I looked at her sort of profile, and I mean, I wasn't too familiar with who she was, and I realised she's a singer, and I thought, okay, that's different. And usually when singers come into like feature film stuff, let alone TV series, it's always quite worrying because, you know, the acting side of it is a bit concerning, we'll say. But she's terrific. She's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. I also love the song that the Silence Is All You Know, the like original song that she does for this is really, really good. Like, I listen to it quite a bit. Also, the flying fish. I love that as a concept. Like, literally, there's a brief scene with when the Doctor finds the fish for the first time flying around the lamppost, and there's lines something like "fish that swim in fog. I love new planets." I was like, that is just the perfect line to illustrate this show. It's perfect. And yes, it's also the most Christmassy episode of Doctor Who ever, despite having many Christmas stories in the past. But it's just, I adore this thing so much.
Yeah,
but again,
I'm
I'll definitely talk about more.
utter agreement that is the most Christmassy Christmas special ever.
Yeah, it's easily the best one, which is ironic because the next one's absolute garbage. Damn it, man, Moffat. But yeah, I'll definitely talk about A Christmas Carol again in a couple of weeks because I think it's a really good case study for why making major changes to the source material can actually improve it. Now we get to the weakest.
Well, I have 2.
That's fine. I have a runner-up and a winner/loser, so it's fine.
Well, I suppose that's what mine is, but I think definitively the weakest one is The Hungry Earth, I think. Definitely the weakest, even though I like parts of it. It's just...
Okay.
Actually, no, it's not even that. Okay, this is going to surprise you. I've done my runner-up first. That's the runner-up, right? Here comes the main one. Are you ready for this? Amy's Choice. I don't know what it is about this. I've never liked this episode. I just think it's a weak episode. It's a bit generic. Like...
That's fascinating.
And
actually,
considering that Chibnall has wrote 2 episodes... Like,
well, I was going to say, you've actually given the runner-up...
Amy's Choice.
Okay. That's very interesting. As you can probably tell, I definitely disagree. I actually really like it.
Dan's in the wrong yet again.
That being said, to be honest, when I first saw it, I really didn't like it. I thought it was absolute rubbish. So it's one that's taken a long time for me to appreciate a lot more, but I can totally see why one wouldn't like it. Rory's mullet. Oof. Pure smut.
Well, it's not even Rory's mullet.
Arthur.
It's just the whole plot, the scenario, everything.
My runner-up would be the Lodger. It's funny seeing it now, considering how annoying James Corden is as a human being now. He's not nearly as annoying here as he is nowadays. Like, he's not in Cats, so it's fine. It's just the whole mystery of what's up the stairs doesn't really interest me. I think the only time it did was when it somehow comes back at the beginning of Series 6 with the exact same interior ship design, which I was initially going to have this as trivia for later on, but I'm not. There's a point where you see a little corpse in the corner that the Doctor notices and then seemingly forgets about like seconds later. That's supposed to be one of the Cylons. So then I'm trying to figure out, okay, so who actually owns this ship now? I don't get it. It's okay.
I think it's just a filler episode.
Yeah. But the winner, for me, is not the Hungry Earth, surprisingly. I actually quite like that one. It's one of the better Chris Chibnall ones, and trust me, he's written some shit.
Well, you see, I probably got confused here because I think I probably think of Cold Blood as the weakest one. Because that's the second part, isn't it? Cold Blood.
Yes. Yeah.
Cold Blood.
That's fine. Time can be rewritten.
Mm-hmm.
See what I did there. No, winner/loser for me is actually The Beast Below. With Starship UK and the stupid Star Whale and the stupid child actors.
Yeah.
And Liz 10. Who actually isn't too bad. I actually find her quite entertaining for the most part.
I think it's definitely entertaining, but it is mind-boggling at the same time. Like, it's bizarre.
It's just...
I see why you've definitely seen it as the weakest one.
Yeah, it's a step down from the awesomeness that is the 11th Hour, which is absolutely terrific.
Yeah, that is a very good debut episode.
I mean, it's fine. Like, I still like it, but it's not nearly as interesting as I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I also wanted to toss my hand in the ring when it comes to the best villain, which I'm going to say mine first because you're not going to like it, considering that you labelled this the worst episode of Series 5. I actually think the Dream Lord is the best villain.
I mean, well, you're clearly wrong.
Excuse me, Daniel. Excuse me.
He's the actor who plays him is phenomenal.
It's time. No, I just love how manipulative he is and how clever he is and how he's like, which makes sense. It makes sense considering who he is because he's just like a dark mirror of the Doctor.
You're the Time Lord, I'm the Dream Lord.
Yeah, and Toby Jones is just terrific in it.
Yes, he is very good.
Yeah, I'd go with the Dream Lord, to be honest. I haven't got a runner-up, because, who is your favourite villain, then? What should be the Dream Lord, to just take the piss?
No. I'm going to say the Weeping Angels, just for the time of the Angels. That is a pretty terrifying episode. The second part, not so much.
I don't know where I stand.
They're just creepy as hell.
Yeah, I mean, they're still relatively creepy. I do appreciate the fact that Moffat is trying to add some extra things to the Weeping Angels. But as soon as you see the bastards move, I'm like, nah, you've ruined it entirely.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to apply logic to the fact that occasionally you see the Weeping Angels look at each other, and I'm like, okay, that's it then. You should be dead. Surely. Or frozen, I should say.
Transfixed.
But Angel Bob. Get a life.
See,
Bob.
that is why I picked it, because it is absolutely terrifying. And it's like, oh, the angel.
I mean, like, it is funny hearing, like.
That's nice. And the Doctor's just like.
I mean, it was pretty quick, but it's fine. Worst villain. I had to look up the name for this because I thought I don't know what to call it. So my pick is 79B Aikman Road, the house from the lodger.
Yeah.
Because I just don't
Mine
get
too.
it.
Like, I just don't understand it. Like, it's. I think it was going to be on the weak list, but I just. I'm going to have to rethink because honestly, I think the lodger might just be the weakest one. And Cold Blood isn't exactly the greatest of story or writing. But honestly, the lodger is just so weird. Like, there's no explanation into why the ship is here, who goes up the stairs, etc. It's just. And Amy's choice isn't exactly brilliant either, so, okay, Dan is rewriting the list now, right? The lodger is the weakest. Runner-up, Amy's choice. But yeah, that...
It's tortures man, Dan.
And do you know what really hacks me off with that episode, Regan, is like the entire of the second story just disappears and everyone just seems fine. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Crack on with our lives. Nope.
Yeah. I'm now going to do random bits of trivia. This is going to be a single piece of trivia from each episode of the series because there's too many episodes and too many bits of trivia to really do. So, here we go. So, the 11th hour. Opening scene with the TARDIS flying over London. If you look very carefully, the exterior of the TARDIS is actually the new one as opposed to the old one. You can even see the interior is clearly the brand new design that's going to appear at the very end of the episode, which I find is quite funny. Like, if you pause it at bits, you can see the St. John's Ambulance logo on the door. I find that hilarious.
All right.
Beast Below, Stephen Moffat revealed that this is actually his least favourite episode he's ever written, calling it a bit of a mess. There was supposed to be a Scottish accent, as you could probably not tell.
A bit of a mess.
A little bit of a mess, I'm afraid. Victory of the Daleks. So this one I actually referenced a couple of weeks ago when I said there was a little bit of trivia that I wanted to save until this one, because you mentioned about the set where the Daleks are in on the set that they use for the spaceship.
Yes.
It's actually a cigarette factory that they used specifically because of the low ceiling.
Right.
Specifically to make the new Daleks look even more imposing, which we didn't actually reference the new Daleks. I said before, make them a little bit shorter and have the balls to do something with them, and they'd actually be really good. Again, another reference to the Peter Cushing era, because those Daleks are Technicolor to the extreme. I like multicolored Daleks, quite frankly. I was sick of the bronze ones.
Yeah, it's like a rainbow in those episodes, man. Dalek rainbow.
That being said, the Ironside Daleks are pretty cool looking, to be honest. I just find it really disconcerting seeing a little Union Jack logo on a Dalek. I'm like, that just looks wrong. That looks very, very wrong. The Time of Angels. It's the fourth episode in the series, but was actually the first to be shot. As you can tell, because Matt Smith's hair is identical to the way it is at the end of Time, where it's a little bit bigger and bushier. I just know these things. Flesh and Stone. I think it was New York Comic Con, I think 2016 or 2017. Matt Smith and Alex Kingston were talking about filming Flesh and Stone because they shot a lot of it in, I believe it was the Forest of Dean, and they talked about how there was like incredibly vibrant moss on like branches and trees and stuff that were just like utterly amazing. I think the references like looking like it was something out of Lord of the Rings. As soon as they finished filming, they ruined all of the moss and it was gone. They freaking destroyed the forest.
Right.
How dare they?
Right.
Vampires of Venice. So in the Vampires of Venice, there was a lot of budget constraints on this one. The scene when Isabella dies in the water, there was supposed to be a giant monster that appears and grabs her. That got dropped because that would have been quite expensive for 2010. And there was supposed to be more shots of the saturnine creatures in their alien fishy form that only appear for, I think it's like 5 seconds in total in the entire episode. Because again, very expensive.
Yeah, it's something quite surprisingly small in terms of screen time.
The Amy's, yeah, it's a good looking design. Didn't get us wrong, but there we are.
Oh yeah.
Amy's Choice. This one's quite funny. So the writer Simon Nye has confirmed that the ecnodeans that are inside the elderly people in the village are based on his own childhood fear of old people. I'm like, if there's like a phobia of old people with an actual name, why the hell is that not just called this episode? Because it really makes...
You know what it is, right? I'm gonna Google.
You're gonna Google
what that is
it, aren't
called.
you?
Yeah.
Okay, all of a sudden I'm going to find Simon Nye's Twitter and just say, by the way, we talked about your episode on our podcast. By the way, you should have called it this instead.
It is an actual thing.
Oh my god.
Gerontolophobia. The fear or aversion for elderly people and old age.
Wow. That is horrible.
Yeah.
That's utterly horrible. God damn it. Okay, next up, the Hungry Earth, which sees the return of the Silurians. I don't mind this redesign, to be honest. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I mean,
interesting
isn't this like the first appearance of the Silurians from like back in the classic days?
I think they appeared twice, yeah. And then this is their third appearance, but it was Stephen Moffat's idea to get rid of the third eye on the original design because he felt it was too reminiscent of Davros. And I'm just sat there thinking, Davros is in a wheelchair. The Silurians aren't. We're not idiots. Also, the Silurians are green. Like, no way. What the hell, man?
I see where they're coming from with the eye thing. I mean, but then again, they are like alien lizard things. So I mean, yeah.
Ah, but they're not aliens though. It's the rare time
yes, they're inhabitants
in
of
Doctor
Earth.
Who
They've been long before
where
humans.
They're
blah,
not
blah,
actually
blah, blah.
fighting an alien. They're fighting, they're fighting Earthians, which I think they even say like Earthlians.
Earthlians.
Cold Blood. I had to strain for this one because, as I say, I don't particularly like this episode either. There's a few references to the classic series. 11 asks for some celery. Gotta wonder why. And at one point he holds the sonic screwdriver very vertical, as if it's like it's the third Doctor, where I'm gonna have to use a pair of scissors because I haven't got the screwdriver, but it's just like that instead.
I know what you're on about. I think even though I don't quite like the episode, I think the silly little references are probably the highlight, we'll say.
Vincent and the Doctor. Once again, due to time constraints, a few things cut. Most interesting one, though, is actually the revelation that the Doctor knows of the Crephaeus from a book of scary stories he read as a kid on Gallifrey. That specific plot would have caused the Doctor to be jittery throughout his entire time in the episode because he's now faced with a nightmare from his childhood. It's actually something that Stephen Moffat uses in Series 9, which I quite liked. And it also would have set the stage for the reveal about the Crephaeus being blind because the book that the Doctor read as a kid was titled Blind Fury.
Okay, that's interesting.
So, which is interesting because I could have sworn... Yeah, because I could have sworn that it was just a one-off with this particular Crephaeus that is blind. I didn't think that the entire race was blind. So, I'm assuming that must have been changed since then. The Lodger was actually going to have a classic Doctor Who villain appearance. It was actually going to be Meglos, who appeared in 1980 in the Fourth Doctor's era. I'll tell you the reason as to why they dropped him, because, well, he looks like a green cactus man. So they dropped him because in the end of time, you already had green cactus people called the Vinvoci. So they dropped him from that. Right. Pandorica opens, obviously ends with the Doctor and the Pandorica and the biggest amount of Doctor Who monsters seen on screen at once ever. It was specifically just the ones where the costumes weren't completely damaged beyond repair, so they could just reuse them, which I find is very BBC and very, very British. It's like, well, we'll use these ones because it isn't broken yet. So the ones you actually see on screen are the new Paradigm Daleks. You see the Cybermen. You've got a Hoiks from Series 2. You've got a Sycorax, also from Series 2. The Sontarans, Jadoon. The new Silurians, pop up briefly. You've got the Autons, but as Romans. You've got a Weevil, which apparently is from Torchwood. I haven't seen that bit yet.
Yeah.
And Uvodny, also from Torchwood. Actually, no, wait. Actually, I think the Uvodny is actually from Sarah Jane Adventures. You see the Atraxi in the sky at one point, and there's one of the I can't remember what they're called, but you know, in the Runaway Bride, when they take off like one of the Robo Santa's hats, and it's like that like yellow mask.
Yeah, the android
Robo
things.
form.
I can't remember the name of them.
Yeah, you see one of those in the background as well. And there's also references to the Slitheen, the Zygons, the Draven, Jelonians, Pteroleptals, and the Draconians, all of which you don't see. So, The Big Bang. Again, an episode I also really like. The title of the episode is actually considered by Moffat as his favourite dirty joke in the entire series. Because it's, in reality, yeah, it's a reference to the fact that they're going to do the Big Bang. It's also a reference to the plot point that's revealed in A Good Man Goes to War, that Amy and Rory conceive River's song in the TARDIS after the credits roll. I'm like, damn you, Stephen.
Dirtiest joke.
I'm going to call you Stephen Fat.
Dear me.
God. And then the final one, A Christmas Carol. The actor who plays the slightly older Kazran Sardik, basically as a teenager, Danny Horn, admitted to being incredibly nervous about his on-screen kiss with Katherine Jenkins, largely because her boyfriend was apparently incredibly intimidating and was also on set. I'm like, that is just cruel. It's the poor sod. That probably explains why he looks absolutely terrified for most of that episode, probably because Mr. Jenkins is just sort of off to the side. Just like, if you do anything
He's
with my
just standing
wife,
there like pounding his fist. He's just like...
I'd like to think he wasn't meant to be on set and he just pretended to be one of the bodyguards. And he's just there.
Maybe, yeah.
But yes, that is our thoughts on Series 5. As I say, I absolutely adore this series. It's my personal favourite. I know you like it as well, but obviously we're now at the point where you're in the time when you're not necessarily drifting away from the show, but it's definitely down a bit. Would that be accurate?
I didn't pay a lot of attention to it, I think is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah. But yes, that is our thoughts on Doctor Who Series 5. We're trundling along with these. Thank you very much for listening. We've had plenty of technical issues again.
Just a few.
We're used to it, but again, you're never going to notice these things in the edit unless I decide, you know what, I'm just going to keep it in just because it's funny. There's just like a 7-minute long segment of me just not saying a word.
And then it would literally be like... It would literally be Snyder's Justice League in terms of length.
I mean, do you want us to lay bloody Leonard Cohen's version of Hallelujah over parts of this as well? Because I can do that, so it'll be fine.
No, just...
I'll get copyright claims to no ends, but it'll be fine.
You do your thing.
You do you. Yeah. But yes, next week we will be discussing the Dark Knight trilogy because we're now hitting another milestone. It'll be 10 years since The Dark Knight Rises, and I'm hoping I'll be able to watch all 3 of them at some point next week. So hopefully those will be on my watch list. Otherwise, I'll just be some random stuff and a load of Formula 1 shit, which is probably going to be what'll end up happening. But I swear to God, if you hit more than 36 things next week, I'm actually going to cut off the little bit of hair that you have on your head. I'm saying that now.
Well, now that just sounds more like a cheeky. I have to do it now.
I don't know how it's possible unless you just binge through another series of Doctor Who. bear in mind, you're going to be getting to series 7. I don't think you are not binging through that at all.
Challenge accepted.
Doing it. For God's sake. Yes, we will. We'll catch you next week. Thanks, everyone, and take care.